Okay, we're cutting her head off a little bit, so let's zoom out a little. Yeah. There you go. Put her kind of in the center. Yeah, she's framed perfectly. Say your name, feel the love. Start your speech.
I'm Isabel.
Hi, Isabel.
What is it about the helpless romantic heroine that society loves so much? I feel like time after time I see these movies with the same plot of girl gets into trouble, becomes damsel in distress, boy rescues girl, they fall in love and live happily ever after. I believe that at this point in history, women deserve to be represented in film as more than somebody that just needs to be saved and fall in love. Mulan was a groundbreaking film that created the role of the woman warrior in society. As Corey Brown says in her film review, it is not the plot that makes Mulan so special, it's the character. She doesn't look like a Barbie doll, she isn't waiting around to be rescued, and she doesn't need a prince. Mulan impacted me in 3 major ways. First, it forced me to challenge stereotypes in society. Second, it made me brave enough to try new things. And third, it taught me the importance of being myself. Let me start with my first story. So the first scene in Mulan is like this really great musical number. She's being prepped to kind of be like presented to society with the emperor, and they're making her all beautiful, and the song lyrics go, men want girls with good taste, calm, obedient, who work quick-paced. And Mulan knew that she wasn't destined for this role of an obedient housewife. She has this really, really strong inner heart and like inner determination. And just like Mulan, when I was growing up, I wasn't like the typical girly girl. I was really different. I grew up with brothers. And I just remember sitting in class in 2nd grade and the teacher asking us to write down what we wanted to be when we grew up. As people started to share, I noticed all the girls wrote down something like mom or wife. And I was sitting there like, oh, okay, like that's cool. It's not what I want to do. And when it became like my turn to share, my current dream was to be the shortstop for the New York Yankees. Everybody burst out laughing. One of the boys shouts, you can't do that. Girls can't play baseball. And I remember sitting there being like, why? Why not? Like, I play baseball now. And of course, the dream has changed over time. And every year I have a new thing I want to do. But I think that watching Mulan growing up and having that role model in my life taught me that it's okay to challenge stereotypes, and people might laugh, but as long as you have confidence in yourself, you can dream whatever you want to dream. The second way that Mulan impacted me was that it taught me the importance of trying new things and made me brave enough to try new things. When Mulan leaves her village for the first time, she's never left the comfort of her home, and she's never exerted herself physically, and it's really hard for her at first. And I tried about every organized sport imaginable growing up, and I was really bad at all of them. In 8th grade, my mom encouraged me to try rowing for the first time. I showed up to practice, easily the scrawniest one. I was terrified, didn't know anyone. And I remember going home the first day and crying to my mom, saying I never want to go back. She encouraged me to just put my best foot forward and just try. A year later, I was stronger than I'd ever been, and I'd finally found a sport that I truly loved and was good at, and it's all because I was brave enough to just try something new and put myself out there. The third way Mulan impacted me was it taught me the importance of being myself. I think that just like Mulan, I grew up with really strict parents, and you're constantly torn between making them happy and making yourself happy. Senior year, when it came time to choose what college to go to, my parents had always kind of encouraged me to go to a small private school that would really, you know, foster really hands-on learning, and the teachers would really pay a lot of attention to you. But when I told them that UCLA was the only place I wanted to go to and that it was my dream, they did greet me with a lot of support and love. And I think just by me choosing to follow my own path and truly go after what I wanted and explain to them that this was the place for me and the place that would help me be myself the most, they ultimately gave me the support I needed. I think that when I was 5 watching this movie for the first time, I didn't get all these lessons. I just sang along to the songs and laughed along with the character Mushu. But 15 years later, I see what a role model Mulan is for girls in society. And she taught me the importance of challenging stereotypes in society, trying new things, and being yourself. As Brown puts it, it is that character and her inner strength that makes the film so special and has given it such an enduring impact to girls everywhere. And so I think that we can all take a lesson from Mulan, get down to business, and find our inner woman warrior. Thank you.
Thank you. 409. Let's start over there in the back row today.
Hi, my name is Joe.
Hi, Joe.
I thought your speech was very fluid in general. You obviously remembered everything you wanted to say, but it didn't seem like you were reciting from memory. At times it was very natural. Like you could tell that some parts were memorized, some parts were fluid, but they just went and sing very easy.
Thank you, Joe. Improvement.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
I thought it was really great. I really enjoyed it. I would say for maybe criticism, just to walk around a little more. Like you did move a little to the right, but if you just continued that for your next couple of points, I thought that would help a lot.
Yeah, let's start with that. Let's see you move 3 times. Let's say on the first story, let's take a step to the right and tell your story. Kind of work that side of the room, but still glance over there. Now, let's take 3 steps to the left. 1, 2, 3. Good. Let's work this side of the room, still glancing over there. And now let's take a step back to the center for your final story. 2, 3, yeah. And what you don't want to ever do is cross your legs as you're walking. You lead with the leg you're heading towards. Do you understand? I liked your speech. You're a very likable and fluent speaker. That helps. I like the movie you chose. I could tell that it resonated deeply with you, and I too appreciate when the old role models are going away, the old Barbie doll and women need to be rescued by a man and that sort of thing. So that was good. On your first story, I thought it had just the right amount of details of playing for the Yankees and the elementary school, and girls can't play baseball and that sort of thing. And we're breaking down a lot of barriers, but the rest of the world has a long way to go, as I'm sure you know. And I was just seeing a report last night on Charlie Rose on Afghanistan, and a priest was convicted of raping a 10-year-old girl, and usually the girl is blamed for these kinds of crimes. So we've really got a long way to go in the rest of the world to come up to the kinds of things we're doing. On your second story, you talked about rowing, and you talked about you found your passion. I was wondering, as you told that story, that was a good story, and you became stronger. I was wondering if you carried that through to high school, into college. It sort of left me hanging. I was wondering if you had something in here that you didn't put in your speech, but I was wondering if you were going to continue rowing or what happened with that decision. So when you want to put something in your speech, you don't want to leave any loose ends with your audience hanging. On your final story about going to a small liberal arts school where you get personalized attention and having your parents trust you to go to a large institution where you're going to be, a smaller fish in a very big pond here, and they trusted that you would be fine. That was a good story. I like that. Little more emphasis of, so I've told you 3 stories, for your summary with your voice, so we know you're summarizing. But I liked your ending and your tie back. It was good. Your 3 things you wanted to improve on is don't move your hands so much. Keep your hands at your side unless trying to make a point. See what you're doing with your hands now, where you're pinching yourself and holding yourself in reassurance. Just let them be by your side or gesture. Word economy, evenly spaced out something, and keep speech at 5 minutes. You kept it at 4:09, so you could have had more detail and gone a little slower. I don't know if my 3-minute mark spooked you or something, but you sped up a little. But overall, you did a nice job, Isabel. You got the idea down, and you expressed 3 emotions, so that was good. So thank you.
My name is next on the list. So.
Oh, you know the list.
I have the list, yes.
Oh, good. Okay. So let me go to the list. You must be. You're not Isabel. You're Olivia.
Oh no, I'm Shelby. Never mind.
Oh.
I thought someone might.
Olivia's
Yeah,
next.
never mind. Sorry, Olivia.
Oh, yeah. You're fine. I'm not saying anything.
Olivia Newton-John. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
You've never heard that before.
Never.
Never.
There's
Okay.
that from last time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, she's managing attention, communicating respect non-verbally to her audience, finding friendly eyes near the front and center, so your name feels a love.
I'm Olivia.
Yeah, that's good, that's good. You can just talk. Yeah.
I think that we've all seen a coming-of-age story where the main character is trying to figure out who they're going to be in the world. I chose Perks of Being a Wallflower for my film. It's kind of a coming-of-age story, but I think it has a lot more to it than that. Especially if you're an introverted person, I think that you can really relate to the film because it's a lot about coming out of your own shell. A review by Owen Gleiberman said that the drama of the film wasn't in any of the little subplots or any of the things that Charlie goes through, but the real romance was in him coming out of his wallflower cocoon and waking up to the friendships in his life. That really resonated with me, and I related to the film on the underlying theme of friendship. This movie really moved me. It made me feel happy, it made me feel angry, and it made me ultimately feel grateful. So the first story where the film made me feel happy, it's when Charlie kind of accidentally finds out that his new friend Patrick is gay, and there's kind of a moment of tension in the film, and then sort of release as Charlie doesn't judge him, and they become closer when he learns more about Patrick's life and what he's had to deal with in keeping their relationship a secret. It reminded me of when my best friend told me that she was gay, and I remember her sitting on a bedroom floor with tears in her eyes, and she was like struggling to get the words out to tell me that Mallory wasn't just her friend, but was her girlfriend. And in a similar way, there was sort of this moment of tension where she hadn't told anyone in college yet, and she was really afraid that people weren't going to accept her after keeping the secret for so long. And I remember just watching her face like totally relax when it didn't change how I thought about her at all, and it ended up being one of the happiest moments. We stayed up all night just talking and laughing and catching up on the last 2 years of her life. So it was really great. The second way the film moved me was it made me feel angry. Kind of along those lines, Patrick's boyfriend, Brad, his dad in the film doesn't really approve of him being gay, and it's pretty dramatic. And it reminded me of following my best friend telling me she admitted that after 2 years, her and Mal wanted to tell their family and friends about them. And, you know, it was just a really stressful time because every person you tell is potential rejection. And her girlfriend's mom was really unhappy and made me angry remembering watching her go through that and how hard it was to watch her feel hurt and how angry it made me to see people be hateful, especially when a parent couldn't even accept their own child for who they are. But ultimately, aside from the good and bad, this movie just made me feel grateful for the friends that I have. There's kind of like the pivotal scene in the film where Charlie and his friends are like cruising down the highway and they're just like listening to music, and he realizes that he's finally met these incredible people who accept him no matter what. And I really related to that. In high school I was super introverted and still am. But in college I've actually made really close friends who know that about me and still love me, and they know me better than I ever thought anyone could. So I really connected to that moment of realizing that you've made friends who've changed your life. Ultimately, I feel like, you know, every person has good times and bad times, but the real important thing in your life, the way that Gleiberman put it in his review, is that we all find our people. and that no matter what your particular struggle is, whether it's being introverted like I am, or having a secret that you're afraid to tell like my friend, the most important thing is just making friends who love and accept you no matter what.
Thank you. 420.
Hi, I'm Rachel Leah.
Hi, Rachel Leah.
Olivia, I really liked your speech. I thought it was really sentimental, and it was clear you put a lot of time thinking through. You felt 3 ways that it made you feel. And you really did a good job of moving 3 different times, but not in a way that was like super like hard to move, but it worked really well, the way that you flowed with your voice. And I also really like the way you connected your stories to your feelings, because when you hear a story and it resonates with you and you start thinking back in your own life, I think that's when a speech really hits you, and your speech did that today. So good job.
Good. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Julia. If I were to offer criticism, just sometimes you say, yeah, like everyone does, and then also, I feel like you were like on the brink of like establishing a real emotional connection with the audience, and obviously we're all probably worried about time, but you had time left, so you could have like maybe talked a little bit more about how like you personally related to each story, but in the third story, obviously you were like, now I found my place, so I thought that was great. But yeah.
Okay, yeah, I like that point too. And it's tricky though because you don't want to go overtime and lose 5 points, and that's I understand that imperative. Let's start with your emotions. The first one, I too had the same experience you did. I saw an old girlfriend from 20 years ago who had something on her mind, and then she told me I'm gay, and she was wondering what my reaction was going to be, and I just went, great.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
I'm glad you found a way to be happy. And she was so relieved, you know. And but she also shared with me, like your friend, that not everyone, her father but not her mother, were accepting. So it was good storytelling, in that when it does evoke our own memories, that works. The one suggestion I would make, Olivia, is the return to the emotion at the end of your segment and say, and that's why I felt so happy after staying up all night and sharing with her and everything. Return to your emotion at the end of it. On your angry emotion, on your second story, yeah, it's really the worst to be rejected by a parent. That cuts deeply, and I think you needed a little more elaboration on that story, especially because it was a vicarious thing. It wasn't you that was being done to, but it was your friend, and so that needed a little elaboration, but you did return to your emotion, and that was good. On Grateful, you shared with us your shyness, I guess, your introversion, as you call it. Yeah, and I liked what you talked about and how you're gradually coming out of your shell, or whatever the metaphor is for that, and so that's good, and taking a speech class is a good way to work that through. I would, as I said to the last speaker, I'd like to hear the word in summary. I've told you 3 stories and 3 emotions, and stress that a little bit more. And then I liked your tie back to your quote and your own personalized take on the film. So you did a nice job. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to, who's next? Olivia Shelby.
There she is.
Hi, Shelby. How are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm swell.
Good. Here's all my papers.
Great, thank you. Good. managing the tension. He's reading. Communicating respect, finding friendly eyes near the front and the center. Say your name. Feel the love.
Hi everyone, my name is Shelby.
Hi, Shelby.
This summer, 2 major blockbusters were released targeted to young adults and females. The first, A Fault in Our Stars, was a kind of overly dramatized telling of a girl's struggle with cancer, and I found it totally unrelatable. However, the second film, If I Stay, was a really moving movie that made me feel like I was experiencing my own high school life through every single plot twist and turn. The movie moved me in 3 ways. It made me feel awkward, it made me feel conflicted, but it also made me feel hopeful. Film critic A. Scott said that the power of the question, if I stay, comes not only from the horrible circumstances in which it is inspired, but from the deep, often half-hidden sources of inspiration, whom to love, where to go to school, how to be nice to our parents and also keep our distance. And those are the sources of the tears that moviegoers had experienced. And I definitely couldn't agree more. The first way that the movie made me feel was kind of awkward. Mia is not your typical high schooler. She loves to play the cello and she loves to spend time with her family, but her parents are always encouraging her to go out and experience more of life. This was very similar to my own experience. At one point in the movie, Mia's going on her second date with Adam, who's a punk rocker boyfriend of hers, and he asked her to come out to a party after their date and like kind of drink and have fun with him. And she doesn't really want to do it, so she says the old curfew excuse, like, I'm sorry, I have to be in 11:30. But meanwhile, her parents were eavesdropping right behind the door, and they're like, no, go out, have fun, you're fine. Which totally happened to me as well in high school. I remember at one point, I told my boyfriend at the time that I had to be in at 11:30 because he would be fine staying up all night. He didn't have school in the morning like I did. And I was talking to my dad and my boyfriend, and I said that, and my dad was like, oh, you don't have a curfew, you can stay out as long as you want. Which was really awkward because then I had to explain that I still, I love my boyfriend, I just wanted to have my time to sleep as well. So it was a little bit awkward. The second thing the movie made me feel was a little bit conflicted. In the movie, Mia feels she has to choose between her future college and her obsession with the cello and her boyfriend, Adam, who wants to stay local in Oregon. At one point, it's New Year's Eve, and Adam asks Mia to make a promise that she can't keep, that they could spend the next New Year's Eve together, to which Mia cannot make, and so they have to break up, leaving her very conflicted. This actually happened to me as well. When I was in the beginning weeks of college, I had my high school boyfriend, and it was hard because there were promises that he wanted me to make that I just couldn't keep while being in school, and I felt like I had to choose my education or my relationship. And it was such a hard conversation on the phone, and it made me feel extremely conflicted, but I knew I had to go through it, and so just seeing it on the screen was very moving and made me feel conflicted. The third way that the movie made me feel was hopeful. In the very beginning of the movie, Mia's family gets in a car accident, and they all die. Mia is the only one who is left in a state of kind of semi-consciousness. Her body's in the hospital, but she can hear everything that's going on around her, and she's having flashbacks the whole time to her life. And she has to make the decision if she wants to stay here on Earth and pursue life or go on, because the hole in her heart is just too big and she can't get over it. And Mia, after thinking about it and realizing that she has her grandparents, her boyfriend Adam, who did come back, and all of her friends and stuff, she decides to choose life, which is so helpful. This reminded me of a time 2 years ago when my mom almost died. My mom actually has a heart problem, and she always, at one point, she got so bad that she couldn't walk up the stairs in our home anymore, and she was bedridden, and it was terrifying. She went to the hospital, and they found out that the heart problem had made her severely anemic, and she had to get 2 pints of blood transfused immediately. I remember going to see her after school, and I was so scared. I went to the hospital and pushed back the curtain, and I remember seeing my mom lying there on the bed, eyes closed, extremely pale, like nothing I'd ever seen before. And I remember just the fear I had when I looked at her and realized, oh, I didn't know what I was going to do if she didn't respond. So I just said, Mom, and her eyes opened up and she looked at me and she noticed that my shoes didn't actually match my outfit, and she observed that and made me laugh and realize that everything was going to be okay. I felt extremely hopeful because she's all right now, and I realized that the ones we love never truly leave us. In summary, there should be no doubt in the room that that the movie has moved me in 3 ways. It made me feel awkward, it made me feel conflicted, and it also made me feel extremely hopeful. Unlike Fault in Our Stars, which was a slightly unrealistic telling of a girl's struggle through love and death, this movie, If I Stay, moved me and made me realize that my own high school experiences were something that's universal and we all experience, and all the tears I cried in that movie were real tears of emotion. I definitely think you should all see it if you can, and thank you very much.
Thank you. 5:07 is perfect. You get 5:15. So.
I thought that was a 1-minute sign, so
Yeah, you had 1 minute left.
Okay.
That means, so you get 5:15. So
Okay.
you use 5:07. Yeah. Okay, well, do it.
Hi, I'm Trenton.
Hi, Trenton.
So I think your speech was really good. I think it flowed very well, and that you definitely had it very well memorized. And like you kind of connected with the audience. Your personality was very bubbly, and it kind of like, I don't know, kept my attention.
Yes, please. Yes.
Hi, Christine.
Hi, Christine.
I think you had a really great speech, and it really flowed. It was very dynamic and really kind of upbeat. But the one thing I would maybe suggest is that it was really fast at points, and I think when you remembered to say something, you were kind of just saying it. But otherwise, I think it was really good. Thanks.
Yeah. Let's start with that. It was a great speech, by the way, but let's start with that, the pace. Let's all remember we want to vary the pace to keep it interesting. Nothing is interesting if it's just zamming away, hammering away, and going a lickety-split. You know, it keeps, you know, and you had an awful lot to say. This is a densely packed speech. You had an awful lot to say. Let's go through it. Yeah, I was intrigued by you introducing this lousy movie as a comparison. So I guess that was good. I guess if people were real movie buffs and saw the crummy one and the good one, that would be a good comparison. I like the New York Times quote, the way you rendered it, and really knew it from memory. You really had it in your mind and in your heart, and you really agreed with it, and so you said it well. So I liked that very much. So I liked your setup, so that was good. On your awkward story of your awkward emotion, your father basically trying to push you outside into a car or whatever he was trying to do. Yeah, and you wanting to go to sleep and kick your boyfriend out. That was a good story. And it was a good parallel to the story in the movie, so I liked that story. And you did return to the emotion that this was awkward, because you already sort of fibbed and said, I have a curfew. On your second emotion, conflicted, here I think you left, it was a good story, something that everyone can identify with, because we all have had to say goodbye to people when we move on, when we leave something, high school or college or whatever. What we really didn't get is the fine details of the resolution of what happened. Did you say goodbye? Are you still with them? And, you know, discerning people want to know, and you left it hanging, so you left it vague. And so don't, you know, this is, you know, if I were critiquing your script, I would say, you know, your audience will want to know what happened to that guy that you were seeing for 4 years in high school. What happened in that phone conversation? You never tell us. You leave it a mystery. On your last emotion, hopeful, on choosing life, this was your best story. Good word pictures. I could see the hospital room. I could see the curtain. You know, you took me there. So that was great storytelling. That was really excellent. And you cut the emotion with your mother saying your shoes don't match or something. And that was good. Your summary was well vocalized, so we knew you were you were summarizing. That was good, and your tie back was well done, and you used all your time. So you did a nice job. I would say your big story, your big what is it with this room? Your big problem is just your pace that I've set as one of my goals for next time. But overall, you did a nice job. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to Hyun Jun Kim.
You can go by Joe if you want.
Okay, Joe. I like people that, yeah. Make it easy. Thank you, Joe. Okay. Good. How's our time doing?
Oh, we're good.
We're
Only
good.
at 31.
Okay, good. Managing attention, communicating respect, finding friendly eyes near the front and center, say your name, feel the love, start your speech.
Hey guys, my name's Joe.
Hi, Joe.
There are many different kinds of clubs and groups in school. There's the Photography Society, there's the Business Society, there's an Engineering Society, and the Dead Poets Society. Glenn Curry Larson said that watching the movie, as he watched the movie, he couldn't help but to melt beneath the movie. And I feel like that phrase exactly captures my emotional responses to watching this movie. The Dead Poets Society is about preppy high school students who are trying to cope with the academic stress by attending a weekly poetry club that a new teacher, Mr. John Keating, set up all the decades ago in the past. And watching the movie made me feel in 3 different ways. The first is that I felt bittersweet watching the movie. The second, I felt grateful. And the third, I felt sad. Yes, I felt sad. Okay. So the first emotion I like to talk about is that I felt bittersweet. And I felt that emotion at the scene where the high school students, 5 or 6 of them, they're just walking out of the school and they're going to a secret cave where they hold the poetry meeting, and the scene just captures like all of them back, like wearing hoodies, and they're just walking back and in the silhouette. And watching that part made me think of my middle school friends. Back in middle school, I went to international school, so people are from all the different backgrounds. My friends were Australians, they're English, Indians, Chinese, you name it. But my specific friendship group consisted of people who were really interested in music. And there are 5 of us, and all of us were all into doing rock band, and I was a drummer. So what we do is every week we would go to, unanimously and implicitly, go to the same studio, and every time we go there, we'll eat there, we'll hang out there, we'll do music there, we'll play our songs. And just watching the exact same friendship group participating in the hobbies and the activities that they want to pursue in the movie really made me think back to my middle school days and how I was very musically inclined back then. Not anymore, but back then. The second emotion I'd like to talk about is that I felt
Gratitude.
I felt gratitude. I felt grateful. Sorry. I felt grateful at the scene where one of the main characters, Neil, had an argument with his father over the fact that Neil wanted to do acting, but his father was very passive-aggressive about it. This relationship is actually very similar to my relationship with my father right now. I wanted to do music in middle school and in high school, and I wanted to do film scoring. And it's honestly not my fault that my entire family is genetically musically inclined. My mom's a pianist, my brother is a singer, so I turned out to be a musician. But because my father grew up in a very conservative Asian family, he obviously wanted to project his image and standards of happiness to me. And it was actually very similar to the argument that Neil and his father had in the movie, but because my father decided to make some compromises with me by telling me that I could pursue it as a hobby, I decided to make some compromises with him too. And by seeing how families can get very emotional over what the son or the children of the family want to do, I felt that I was very grateful to have a father who was actually very understanding. And you don't get that in Asian families, man. Like, not everyone gets that kind of compromise. So here I am at UCLA doing pre-law. The third emotion I felt was that I felt sad. And this was the scene where the poetry teacher, John Keating, was fired from school because he did not conform to the school regulations. Now, back in high school, in fact, in all Korean high schools, we all have security guards at the front of the gate. I still don't understand to this day, like, we don't have any weapons like on the streets, but we do have security guards at the front gate of the school. And the food back in middle school was really bad. And there were a lot of things that were very regulated, and there were a lot of rules and things that you need to go by. If you were late to class 3 times, you need to talk to the principal, even if you were excused. So I went to a very strict school. And one time, me and my friends were like, "Oh, this food, we can't just eat this food." And we talked to one of the security guards at the front gate, and one of them was actually very nice. I still remember his name. He was very lenient, and even though you could say that he wasn't conforming to the school rules by letting us out, the restaurant was right in front of the school. And what he would do is he understood that, you know, we're young, we want to eat more food, and like the food's like, I'm pretty sure it was like poisonous back then. He'd let us out the gate quickly, and then we would quickly eat there, we'd grab stuff, and we'll come back in. Now, I'm not advocating that, you know, we need to erode school regulations whatsoever, but I felt tremendously sad and guilty because of the fact that John Keating, the teacher in the movie, was also allegedly kicked out of school because apparently he contributed to a student's death by promoting sporadic actions through poetry. In conclusion, this movie is not only profound to me because it's not only emotional to me because I felt in many different kinds of emotions watching the movie, but it made me think about what life really is, and I feel like I really melted beneath the movie because it doesn't comment on any of the events that happen in the movie. Rather, it just leaves you there. You can feel guilty, you can feel angry, you can feel sad, you can be bittersweet about your past, but the film leaves you there, and it tells you to comment on the things that happened in the past on your own, rather than just leaving it the way it is.
Thank you. Yes, 5:43. Hi, Pauline.
So I liked your speech. I thought it was original and interesting. I mean, all of our speeches were original, but I liked your stories. I mean, they were relatable, they were interesting, so I think it was good, and you used humor as a way to keep our attention, so I thought that was good too.
Thank you, Pauline. Improvement?
Hi, I'm Thomas.
Hi, Thomas.
I really liked the sense of humor you incorporated in your speech, but if I was to offer criticism, I would say maybe practice a little bit more, just so that you can recall certain details you want to say.
Yeah, I think that's right, and work on the time and have benchmarks of where you want to be and that sort of thing. But let's start with the positive. I really like, you can go ahead and sit down now, you don't have to stand for this whole thing. Thank you for your respect, though. I like the movie you chose. It's a great film. If any of you have not seen it, I recommend you see it. It's really a terribly well-written movie and well-acted. One of Robin Williams' best films, in my judgment. Really super job and really talks to a lot of young people angst and what they're going through, and I think you tried to communicate that. It really spoke to you, and so that was good. You started with a quote. I'd like to have known where the movie critic came from. If you're going to say, is it a man or woman? Larson, just left it at Larson. So Mr. Larson from the New York Times that said this or something like that. You got your preview out. You skipped your significance statement. So make sure when I give you a prompt, you put it in an outline form. So you sell the, and a significance statement sells the speech a little bit to the audience, and you say, and I know you really care about listening to this speech because I'm going to talk about things that are really important to all of you, near and dear to your heart, like choosing a profession, following your heart, and things like that. On your first emotion, bittersweet, you talked about the rock band that you used to be in middle school, I guess it was, international school, was it, in Hong Kong. What I didn't get, and I wish you would have returned to that emotion in the end, which is to say, and I felt bittersweet because I don't have a rock band now, or I wish I had some people to go back with now to jam with or something. I didn't get why it's bittersweet now. You just implied it. On gratitude, I think you caught the father's passive-aggressive thing nicely, and I guess you told us about a compromise. You left vague what the compromise was. I suppose you have music as a hobby and you chose another major. I guess that's the compromise, right? And that was a big deal in an Asian family. So that was your story, and you felt gratitude that you got the compromise and you didn't have to completely sacrifice music. On your story of sadness, here's where I thought you got a little. I thought you were going to tell us the security guard at your school got fired for letting you go eat across the street, and I couldn't tell if that's where you were going with the story or not. Did he get fired or not?
He did get fired. I just slipped out of my mind.
Yeah. Okay. So you were going that way with that. Okay. Yeah. So he got fired. That's kind of sad. As was it was sad in the movie that Mr. Keating got fired for just encouraging the boys to think critically about life and so forth and follow their dreams and heart. You skipped over a summary. Your conclusion was fine. So overall, I would say you got the basic idea down. You just want to practice a little bit more and watch the time. But you did a nice job. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to Zoe. Zoe with an E. Okay, he's reading. Managing attention, communicating respect, finding friendly eyes in the front and center, saying your name, feel love, start your speech.
Hi, I'm Zoe.
Hi, Zoe. Zoom
So,
in a little for her. Yeah.
when I tell you what movie I chose, you may be wondering
Too
how a girl
short.
like me relates to a movie about a 6'3" grown man in an elf costume. And you're right, we're both pretty tall. But it's more than pure physical similarities. I chose this movie because of the emotional connection I felt with the main character, Buddy, when he deals with significant themes of overcoming obstacles and creating family bonds. So today I want to share a movie with you called Elf. This film moved me in 3 ways. It made me nervous, it made me sad, and it made me happy. I completely agree with critic Robert Ebert when he says, this is one of those rare Christmas comedies that has a heart, a brain, a wicked sense of humor, and charms the socks right off the mantelpiece.
Mm-hmm.
So the first way this film moved me was it made me feel nervous. The incident in the film that made me feel nervous was when Buddy has to leave the North Pole, where he's grown up all his life, to go to a magical land called New York City. This incident made me feel nervous because it reminded me of having to leave my hometown of Santa Cruz and all my friends and family to come to LA, a city that was really big and foreign to me. As you can probably all agree, the first few weeks of freshman year were completely nerve-wracking. Trying to live away from home, making new friends, and finding your way around campus.
which included getting lost multiple times. And now I can look back at my freshman self and laugh for being nervous, but at the time it was also new and scary. The second way the film moved me was it made me feel sad. The incident that made me feel sad was when Buddy's dad was too busy with work to pay attention to him. And this incident made me feel sad because it reminded me of all the times that my dad forgot to pick me up from elementary school. So I'd have to sit in the office for hours after school, waiting for him to come, and after a while, all the office ladies started giving me candy and books to read while I waited. And, of course, he would show up and always be super apologetic, but all I really wanted was for him to remember me on time. The third way the film moved me was it made me feel happy. The incident in the film that made me feel happy was when Buddy and his brother Michael defeat the bullies from Michael's school in an epic snowball fight. This incident made me feel happy because it reminded me of my sister and I bonding over the most ridiculous things, like singing and dancing in traffic while blasting music, and accidentally overflowing my grandparents' jacuzzi-sized bathtub because we put too much soap in it. And despite the reason that my sister's adopted, we have the best times together, and I consider her to be one of my best friends and my sister. So, in summary, I've shown you 3 ways this film moved me. It made me feel sad, it made me feel nervous, and it made me feel happy. And the reason that I chose this film was because of the way I emotionally connected to Buddy. When he moved to a new place, I felt nervous. When he defeated the bullies from Michael's school in a snowball fight, I felt happy for him. And when his dad was too busy with work to pay attention to him, I felt nervous. Thank you.
Thank you. 307. 307, yeah. Okay, where are we? I guess we're here. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Maria. And I really liked your intro. I thought that was like very grabbing. I thought like all your jokes were really funny, and I like how you hit all the main points that you wanted to put there.
Hi,
Improvement.
Isabel.
Hi, Isabel.
I thought it was really funny too. I love that movie. It's so good. Obviously, it was a little bit short, so you could have gone into a bit more detail just so that we could connect with you a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because you did have good stories, but if you could just elaborate a little bit more, I think that it would help the audience.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, Zoe, let's start at the top. I guess you wanted to get away from home, so UC Santa Cruz wasn't an option, huh? Okay, yeah, that was just out of the question. Yeah. Okay, it's a good school. But anyway, so is UCLA, so whatever. Let's start with your speech. Your introduction, I like the contrast of a 6'3". That was cute and funny. You set up your review nicely. Remember a little bit, have a little bit more of a significant statement of selling it a little bit more, of saying, I think you really enjoy hearing about this film, a little bit more, to sell a little bit more. On your first story of Nervous, here's where I think it could have been a little bit more of a story. I think a specific event. You said I got lost numerous times. Let's tell us one time where you were looking for Kirchhoff Hall and you ended up in the medical center or something. Be a little more specific with some more details. Fill us in and make it more story-like, because you just left it, you know, I was away from home and I got lost a bunch of times and it was frustrating, but, you know, I was really nervous being on campus. So I returned to that emotion at the end. You said I was kind of scary to be down here, being so new. So that was good. On your second emotion that you were trying to communicate, you said it was sad, and you talked about your father that was irresponsible and didn't pick you up on time. And it made you stand out at school because everyone else's parents managed to get there on time, and you stood out, and you had to get candy, and then he finally showed up. And I would have liked you to have expressed more of your sadness about that, because that was the emotion you were trying to communicate, was sadness there. And because you ended with, all I wanted him to do was to remember to pick me up, and it says returning to, and I felt sad. On your third emotion, on happy, you really came through with your adopted sister, as you put it, and I like that you added that. And I liked the events that you added with the bathtub and so forth. Those were good word pictures that we could really see and really relate to. More details, and if you had some stories with you and your sister, not just isolated events, but some stories that you could have put in of you and your sister, that would have been good. Your summary was good, very detailed. I liked that. Many people are just going past, present, and future, or or saying three emotions real quickly. But you gave the detailed summary, so that was good. Remember to conclude. There should be no doubt in this room. Alf really moved me, and then tie back to your great introduction. So the next time you see me with a 6'3" guy, don't be surprised. Two things about your goals. And when you watch yourself tonight on YouTube, you're going to see that you kept yourself, your hands behind your back the whole time like Napoleon. And you want to use your hands. People think you have a gun back there. And you want no gun back there, right? You want to let your hands be out there and gesture. You said your goal was to have a lot of energy, to have good eye contact, and to end with a bang. How'd it go?
I thought it went pretty well. I think I had more energy than last time, and I tried to make eye contact. I could have probably held it longer.
Yeah, 3 to 5 seconds is what we're looking for. Okay. The bang, I could tell you were trying to get a climax going, really, to get a lot of energy going at the end, so I appreciate that effort. And I appreciate you trying to get up some enthusiasm for public speaking. That's good. So, I think it'll help you a little if you specifically move 3 times as I showed her how to do. I think that would be good. Okay, you did a nice job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ooh. Thank you. Who's next? Maria. Hi, Maria.
Hi, I'm Maria.
Hi, Maria.
Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair is what we think of when we hear about the old German fairy tale.
Yeah.
But Disney adds a new twist to the movie, and Rapunzel not only lets down her hair literally, but also hypothetically, and goes on an adventure with Flynn Rider. The movie that I chose is Tangled. It made me feel conflicted, amused, and excited. The themes in the movie are kind of cheesy, but they're follow your heart and follow your dreams. Critic Armand White said that Tangled is a tangled mess and that Hollywood exploits our emotions throughout the movie. I completely disagree with this because I think the emotional bond we form with the characters is what helps to get the theme across. The first way this movie made me feel is conflicted. Rapunzel leaves her tower for the first time in 18 years. Her mother, Mother Gothel, does not know about this, and Rapunzel feels really free at first, and she feels excited to be out in the grass. Then she feels really sad that she left her mother, and she feels guilty. And then she's really happy again running around, and then she cries again and wants to go back. This is also how I felt when I first came to UCLA. At first, I felt really free because my parents were very protective, but then I felt like I needed my mom to make my decisions for me. Then I feel really happy again that I could do whatever I want, but then I felt really homesick and guilty for leaving my parents. So this emotional roller coaster is how I really related to Rapunzel in this scene. The second way this movie made me feel was amused. The palace horse follows around Flynn Rider and tries to get him in trouble. This reminded me of one time when my mom went to Trader Joe's and jokingly said that my 7-year-old brother is in charge. For the next hour, he went around patrolling me watching my every move, trying to get me in trouble, so we could have something to report back to my mom. So this part of the movie really made me laugh because I thought the horse was just like my brother. The third way this movie made me feel was really excited. It was Rapunzel's lifelong dream to see the flying lanterns. And when she finally sees them, she's in awe. She feels fulfilled. This was her life dream after all. And this reminded me of a time when I went to Venice, Italy. It was always my dream to go there. I always read books about it, saw it in movies. And I finally got there. It was so exciting. I was in such awe. The city was so beautiful. So I kind of thought of Rapunzel when this happened. So there should be no doubt in this room that the movie Tangled really moved me. It made me feel conflicted, excited, and amused. The themes of follow your heart and follow your dreams are very relevant. And Rapunzel let down her hair hypothetically and went on this huge adventure. And as Flynn Rider said, adventure is part of growing up.
Thank you. 2:45. Okay, we're somewhere. Here.
Hi, I'm Tess.
Hi, Tess.
I thought your speech was really good. I liked that it was so clear and concise, and you really outlined all of your points.
Yeah, she knew her, got right to the point, didn't she? Improvement?
Hi, I'm Damon.
Hi, Damon.
I think if any improvement, it should just be being more descriptive with your stories.
Yeah.
Just giving more details so we can, I guess, be more intrigued.
Sure. Also, I want to start to remind everyone, if you don't have it now written down, I don't know if it's somewhere here. It's not. Is it somewhere here? No. Oh, here it is. Have 3 goals each time. Is it somewhere?
Last page, yeah.
Last
If
page?
you flip that.
Okay, let me see what your goals were. Okay, good. Let's start at the top. I liked your intro of the fairy tale. That was good. You have long hair, so that was kind of cute and funny and all that kind of thing. You really are a to-the-point kind of speaker. There was no fluff in your presentation. It sort, yeah. So that was right away. I could see this was going to be a short speech, but anyway, you got right to the point. You got conflicted, amused, and excited, so you had a good preview. Your significant statement was pretty good. I liked your disagreement with the critic. I think you were right in disagreeing with is it Armand? Yes, with him. So that was good. On your first story, which you said was you felt conflicted, and you talked about her conflict being free at last at 18, and you were free at last when you came to UCLA. And then you came, then you said, then I missed my parents, and I called my mom, then I wanted her to leave me alone, then I called her, and I wanted her to leave me alone, and then I conflicted. This is where we could have had a story. For example, and this is, we could have really used some examples there to make it real, to make more details. That's where you could have really brought in something. But that would require you disclosing a little more something about yourself and not being quite so private. But you didn't, so that's what made it a little bit short. On your second emotion, I thought this was your best one, of your little brother stalking you in Trader Joe's, and you got a laugh out of your audience, so you communicated that emotion of being amused well. Again, a little bit more detail of him picking up cheese or something, just making more into a story would have been good. Unexcited, boy. You wanted to go to Venice, Italy for a long time, and we didn't get much about Venice, Italy. We didn't hear about the gondolas, and we didn't hear about the hotel. We didn't hear about any place you went. We didn't hear about any of the art you saw. We didn't hear about any of the food. We just heard, I like Venice, So, really could have, could have really given us some more details to make Venice come alive for us as it did for you when you visited it. So I really want you to work on your storytelling. This is really what I think you really need to work on. Your summary was fine, your conclusion was fine, and let's look at your goals now. You want to have more emotions, and I think that's going to come with more details and sharing more of yourself, especially variation in your voice, to not overthink what I'm supposed to be saying, not to seem over-rehearsed so my speech sounds natural. You did seem natural. Have smoother transitions while presenting your speech. Your transitions were fine. I think you want to not be afraid to say "I feel" in your presentation, and you know, I felt so excited and happy and free when I got to UCLA. I felt so good in Venice, and use that phrase and expression, and that'll get some emotion going for you. But overall, you got the job done. Thank you. Who's next?
Maria.
Maria.
I just won.
Maria
Oh, yeah,
just
we
went.
didn't.
Sorry, Maria.
Sorry.
Thomas.
Who's it?
Oh, Thomas. Samuel Schwartz. Yeah, all right. Sam Schwartz. How we doing on time? Yeah, okay.
We're
we got
cutting
get
close.
Sam in. Okay, good.
Hi everybody, I'm Sam.
Hi, Sam.
Sam.
A red convertible races through the desert. In the passenger seat, a fat man is pouring beer all over himself. And driving, a man in yellow aviators, a floppy safari hat, and a crazy disposition is waving at the air with a fly swatter, murmuring about bats. This is a film that could go in 1,000 different directions, until we are treated to the classic line. We had 2 bags of grass, 75 pellets of mescaline, 5 sheets of high-powered blotter acid, a salt shaker full of cocaine, a galaxy of multicolored uppers, downers, screamers, laughers, a quart of tequila, a quart of rum, a case of Budweiser, a pint of raw ether, and 75 animals. Not that we needed all of this for the trip. Once you get locked in a serious drug collection, the tendency is to go as far as you can. These are the words of the infamous Hunter S. Thompson as portrayed by Johnny Depp in the movie Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Now this movie made me feel satisfied, frightened, and also very thoughtful. Now a movie like this has the tendency to draw a lot of negative emotions and lots of feelings of disgust because of the rampant drug use that occurs in this movie. But I found a lot of very interesting things from it. Some of them are good and some of them are bad as well. The first feeling that this film made me feel was satisfied. I'm sure at least a couple of you, or at least I know myself, have been curious about mind-altering substances and what it would feel like to be on them. The great thing about this movie is that you don't have to do any of these drugs to feel the way that the main characters are feeling. By crazy camera work and the best special effects of 1998, this film really takes you to the place that the characters go. There's one great scene where the 2 characters inhale raw ether and describe it as being like the town drunk. And the mind is recoiling in horror. It is separated from the spinal column. And the interesting part is that you can see yourself acting this way, but you can't control it. Sorry, I'm sick. The camera work, spinning and going up and down, and the craziness of the entire scene really makes you feel almost like you're on ether. The second emotion that this film made me feel is frightened. As I saw feeling the way that these main characters feel while on drugs is that these drugs are very, very powerful and mind-altering, and that they can be used for nefarious purposes. There's one scene where the main character goes to a hotel to meet up with his partner, who just got back from the airport. When he gets to the hotel, the bed is covered in these weird paintings, and this teenage girl is trying to bite his ankle off. What had happened was the partner had met this girl at the airport and had slipped her some LSD and tried to bring her back to the hotel for nefarious purposes. Now, the main character was not very okay with this. Even druggies have morals too. And he gets a hotel for her, a separate hotel room for her so she can calm down. This frightens me because it's easy for people to use these drugs for bad purposes. As we've seen even at UCLA, there have been cases of both men and women getting roofied, and I even know a couple friends who have been roofied at parties. So it's really frightening that these drugs are so powerful. The third emotion that this film made me feel was thoughtful. The entire film, the characters are running around Las Vegas high on about 10 different drugs. And they go to a bunch of different locations looking for the American dream, as they call it. They go to these locations and try to find it as though it's a tangible object. One of the most interesting things in the film was that the normal characters were also portrayed as very negative. In one scene, there's a district attorney who is yelling anti-gay slander at a gay man who is working at the front desk at a hotel. A couple well-dressed people in a Rolls Royce who pull up next to our two drugged-out stars and start yelling at them and saying that they'll kill them and stuff. What I got out of this was that the film tells us that the American dream should be lived like the two main characters. Not exactly rampant drug use per se, but to kind of be happy and take things by stride. Characters know a lot about their drugs, and it makes them happy. So what I got out of it is that, we should do things that make us happy, find a career that makes us happy, and be knowledgeable about things that we enjoy. All in all, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas made me feel satisfied, frightened, and thoughtful. And I really enjoyed the movie. In the movie, that could go a billion different directions. The end credits roll with the convertible going down the only road that leads out of Las Vegas, one direction, through the desert. The American flag flying behind it. Maybe the American dream has been found.
Thank you.
Thank you.
608.
I think you have a very strong voice, so that your voice resonates throughout the room, and it's very attention-catching. So I like that. I think your use of the pen was really memorable. Yeah, so I would say you have a really nice, commanding kind of stage presence.
Okay. Good voice improvement.
Hi, I'm Anne.
Hi, Anne.
I really like your speech. I think it was very touching and memorable in the performance. And I know it's hard, especially that you're sick. And you have a lot to tell if you can see that. But I guess because of that, work more on the pacing, I guess, and be more selective and concise. But overall, I really like your speech.
Yeah. Sam, thank you for showing up and getting your midterm and manning up and doing your speech, even though you're a little sick. I appreciate that. Let me suggest for all of you, if you're finding that you're running overtime or you're running long, the plot summaries can go. They can be cut down to one sentence. What I'm more interested in is you communicating your feelings about the movie. Remember when I explained the purpose of the speech was to practice communicating emotions, one of the 5 pillars of good storytelling, and we're trying to communicate emotions. And so we're talking about, you told us of 3 emotions: satisfied, frightened, and thoughtful. And so I want to get to those emotions. Your setup was okay. When you got to the first one of, you said satisfied, you tried to give us the experience that, you tried to say that the movie gave you the experience of vicariously experiencing a drug experience. And so that was pretty good, I guess. I guess you were satisfied that even though it was a pseudo experience, you got the experience of experiencing a drug feeling or something, the camera bobbling, that sort of thing. On the second feeling of frightened, here's where I think you really fell down. You spent a whole lot of time on the plot summary and not a lot of time on your own feelings. You gave us about 1 sentence about some friends getting roofies, and it's a very sad thing, but that's where the story needed to be told. What friend? Name? Give it. Let's hear the story of the roofies and the details and how you had to help someone, or you knew someone that helped someone and nurtured him or her back, blah, 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 blah. On your third story of thoughtful, once again, we had a real long plot summary, and I'm not sure about how thoughtful is, what kind of emotion thoughtful is, how you got to it. You said you're going to pursue the job you enjoy, and that's what you got out of the film, right? So that was what you were trying to get out of the movie. You went way over time, so you want to have a timer on this thing and have benchmarks of where you want to be. But overall, you chose an interesting movie to do. I would just work more on communicating the emotions in the storytelling and tell 3 stories and work on the storytelling, emphasize that, and not so much the plot summary. But you did a nice job. Thank you. Okay.
Looks like the battery's still about half.
Yeah, so we're okay. We have time for one more? Yeah, we have time for one more? Yeah, let's get one more in. Who's next? Kristen Fran. Is it Kristen or Christine? Christine. Okay, don't call me Kristen. Okay, and there's your goals. Good. Okay, rock and roll. We're on borrowed time here.
Hi, my name's Christine.
Hi, Christine.
So Disney films are known for many things. One of the fairy tale endings, that's what it's famous for. But I think one of the reasons why Disney films are so successful is because they talk about the individual and they spotlight the individual. So think about characters like Mulan, Pocahontas, all those types of characters follow an individual's journey to self-identity. And so one of the films that are is my favorite involves not a female heroine, but actually a furry feline. And when this movie was released, it was critiqued by the New York Times as something that didn't have a really great storyline or a plot, but was serviceable. And I have to say, I strongly disagree. I've seen this movie hundreds of times throughout the years since I was 5, and something about the movie allows me to still connect with it. And so the film I want to share with you today is Oliver and Company, and I want to tell you how it made me feel sad, how it made me feel torn, and also how it made me feel happy. And I think this is, it has themes that I think I can connect with everyone, because we all are trying to find our identity in this very chaotic world. And so the first story I want to share with everyone is how it made me feel sad. And so in this movie, Oliver is an orphan kitten, and he's placed in this box on the street in New York City. And throughout the day, there's other kittens in there, and people take the other cats, but Oliver is left at the end of the day by himself because no one wanted him. And so he has to, he was abandoned, and he has to fend for himself. And this made me sad in particular because when I was a kid, I was raised by my relatives, and they only spoke Vietnamese to me. So when I went to preschool, I didn't know any English. And so I couldn't communicate with my teachers, and I couldn't communicate with my peers. And so no one really wanted to play with me, and I felt really isolated and sad in that sense. And so in a way, I could really connect with Oliver because I could share his story of not being wanted. The second way that this film really moved me is that it made me feel torn. And the reason why this made me feel torn was because Oliver is taken up by a gang of street dogs, and so they have interest in him and they really care for him. But he's also one day adopted by this really well-known girl, and Oliver goes to live with her, and he has to face this choice of who does he want to spend time with. And I remember feeling torn when I was also in elementary school, because I had two sets of friends, and I was trying to figure out, do I want to spend recess with them, or do I want to spend lunch with my other friends? And I always felt like kind of like a traitor, you know, trying to have to figure out between what group to sit with. And so that way I could really connect with Oliver and how he had to choose situations. The last way that this story really moved me, or this film moved me, was that it made me feel happy. And that was at the end when Oliver's gang of puppy dog friends become friends with the young girl that Oliver has been adopted by. And I could really connect with that because in that way Oliver had kind of coalesced his two different identities. And growing up, I always felt American, but I also remember that I have a Vietnamese heritage. And that two very separate identities I was always kind of struggling with. And as I got older and I learned to identify with myself and I kind of was navigating the world, I was able to mesh those two identities together. And so I felt really happy and I felt content when I found out who I was, and for Oliver too. And so in summary, I hope you can see the three ways that this film really moved me. It made me feel sad, it made me feel torn, and it also made me feel happy. And I have to disagree with the New York Times critique that this screenplay wasn't that great of a plot, because, you know, after watching it for 15 years, there's something about it that I still really connect with. And so I hope that if you guys get a chance, you could really watch it, because it will tell you about, like, the themes of identity and coming to yourself and finding out who you are. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's 4:08. Come on. We're good. Okay, we're somewhere here, quickly.
Hi, I'm Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
I thought your speech was really good. You were really fluid, and you seemed like you knew what you wanted to say, and you got it out in a timely fashion, and you didn't really go off and ramble or anything. And it was like pretty concise, and I felt like I connected to it and understood what you're trying to get across.
Okay, good.
Hi, Tiffany.
Hi, Tiffany.
I really liked your speech too. It was really nice to listen to. I think the pace was a teeny bit fast, but we're like kind of getting to the end of class, and you're probably like trying to keep that in mind. And I think also it's good that you turned and like faced different parts of the room. But I feel like when you focused on one side of the room, you like kind of neglected to glance at the other side. So you would like only do the side, and then only do the side, and then only do that side. So I guess like keeping in mind, yeah.
That's a great point, and you'll notice when I was making the suggestion, when you're facing this way, you still glance over there so they're not excluded. Remember, they're all your children, right? So you never want to make any of them not feel loved. Well, I liked your speech. It was letter perfect, but again, I would just have to fault you on the pace. I'd really like to see you vary it a lot and learn to slow down, especially on the storytelling and the emotion part of it. You can zip through the plot summary and the film review and your Disney beginnings and all that, but when you fly through the emotions, you don't give it a chance for us to settle in on it. Let the emotions settle with us too. So that was the one overarching criticism that I would just have of what happened here. Your first story of sad and being isolated, knowing the language, I really felt that. That was good. I could feel your isolation and not knowing the language and being a little kid in elementary school, and no one wanted to play with you, and you sort of sat alone. That was good. Again, as I said to many people, remember to return to that emotion so it's real clear, and that's why I felt so very sad. You know, so it's real. You ice it. You say that's why I felt so sad. On your second emotion, you call it, I felt torn. Made me feel torn. It was it was okay, the story. I was curious how you got two groups of friends, and maybe that's the story in that, maybe there's not, I don't know, but it did parallel the movie, so that worked okay. And I've had a similar experience of having different groups of friends, of artists and non-artists who despise the artist and so forth. So I've had those feelings of certain groups not liking other groups. So I know that being torn feeling. So I got that from you, so that was good. On your happy, here's where I thought you could have really expanded more. You say you had American but still Vietnamese heritage. How did that identity finally merge and come back, and how did you finally come back to being so happy when it finally merged and you became one with both strands of your being, as you sort of put it, that sort of thing? Your summary, conclusion, and tieback were all fine. Again, you were in time. You rushed right along, so you could have slowed down and had a lot more to say and paused on the emotion. But you did a nice job, and you got us out of here in time. Thank you. Okay, is that everyone? Yeah. Okay,